I worked in the world's best restaurant for 8 months for free. With this video, what I want to give you is a breakdown of what it means to be a stage. Why would anyone do it? Why I did it back in the day. And whether you, if you're a young chef, older chef, just a chef, whatever chef, you should do it. Should you do it? Should you not do it? What is the case for it? What is the case against it? What are the pitfalls? Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? And what I will not do is I will not fall into the trap of saying because I did it, then you should do it. I think that won't be fair. But I want to think it through and say what could possibly in 2026 and going forward be the benefits for you if you wish to do so. Let's do it. Well, first of all, this is not a moral discussion, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. I would like to try and lay out the facts as clearly as I can for you to make sense of it, whether this is something that you should do everything you can to avoid, or whether this is something that might contribute to your career or just life in general. So, what is the stage? Well, historically, what you have to consider, if you are a little younger than me, is that we used to not have iPhones, right? So if you would be interested in culinary adventure, there would be very limited ways for you to obtain information besides moving your ass to a different country. So I went and did my first stage in 2005. And I did another one in 2006. So in 2005, this was pre-iPhone era. I went to Paris. I had 5 years of experience, and I went there to see and experience cooking at the highest level. I had 5 years of experience in mid-range restaurants. What I wanted to do was I wanted to see things that I did not have access to otherwise. This was in 2005. And historically, this is what a lot of people have been doing, because in 2006, I went to elBulli. At the time, by far the world's best restaurant. Everybody wanted to go. 4,000 people applied to work for free for the entirety of 8 months there. I was one of them. Because I did my stage in 2005, I got a hookup. I got connected, so I became the 1%. I arrived there with the feeling of privilege, of going to somewhere that a lot of people wanted to go. That, I think, is important when you consider what the approach then became, for me at least, when I was there. The reasonable question to ask is, why didn't you just apply for a job there? Well, it felt like there was no chance in hell. Remember, looking things up on the internet was in itself a little complicated at the time. I would have to send emails to some completely undisclosed email address somewhere where, I want to apply for a job. I didn't have the CV. It didn't make any sense for me to think that it would be a possibility for me to get a job there. And also, I didn't feel that I was up for the task. This was the best restaurant in the world. How could I work in the best restaurant in the world? The idea of working for free there kind of made a little more sense to me somehow. I could just apprenticeship my way there. So that's what I did, and it opened for me 1,000 doors, because as I returned to Denmark, to Copenhagen, I had worked in the best restaurant in the world, which then gave me the job, essentially, at what then became the best restaurant in the world, Noma. So historically, considering the stage, it is very much connected to how the Spanish started cooking. I think elBulli had a big part to play in this. You should read The Sorcerer's Apprentice by Lisa Abend as a book that explains the life of the stages in elBulli. I read that with great pleasure because it kind of had me relive my own life there. But I found it difficult to find a place to stage in 2005 in Paris. I sent an email to every 3 Michelin star restaurant there. Only one responded, the Taiwan, and I went there for the stage. My sense is, and I don't know what the facts are, but my sense is that it was not entirely legal to do so in France at the time, and that the French unions were very hard on the whole matter, which is, I guess, is fine. But the Spanish did it differently, and the cooking in Spain was very different. So the brigade in France would be 6, 7, 8, 10 people, rarely more. But what you would have in Spain would be 50 people. The cooking was completely different. The cooking was based on tiny, small things that required a ton of manual labor. I worked for 8 months for free there, and a lot of the work was just boring. It was drudgery. It was just whatever. We would boil squash forever and pick out the seeds to make a risotto, because Ferran thought that that was the essential taste of squash. Okay. And was it worth it for me? It was. I know for sure for a lot of people that was there, it was not. It was what you brought into it. But this is a different discussion. What I just think is that the idea of creating a 50-man army to create a certain type of food requires stages, and the output is a different kind of cooking than the traditional French cooking. Originally, the French brigade required a ton of skill and hard work and manual labor from a few but very skillful people. The Spanish approached it differently. They had a very few amount of people working with creative and artistic vision, and they had a ton of manual labor around them to do jobs that required little to no skill and produced very strange, but I guess as a diner, very interesting outcomes. Okay? So we went from being very skilled to sort of separating the mind from the body. The Ferran and the creative chefs would create things that would be out of this world, but they required an army of hands to make things possible by making, do the impossible, essentially. Like, how can you pick out squash seeds? No, there's no business case behind that, obviously. So that kind of set that era, and I think from then on, the stage became a thing. For me, it was a best case scenario. I worked at the best restaurant in the world at the best possible time, at a time where it was the only way to have access to it. Let me just say another thing is that in both stages I did, I was offered the job to stay, but I refused to do it. I liked the fact that it was for a limited time. I wanted to move on. It was not places that I was going to commit to. But there is an actual risk that you find yourself caught up in a place where you will just do menial work that is boring, senseless, and that you will have a hard time seeing the purpose of, and honestly make any use of in your further career. For you to avoid the big pitfall, the key is the following. Choose only to go on a stage after you have a level of experience. Get experience first. 2, choose restaurants based on what skills you want to acquire and not for clout or CV. Don't go for prestige. It's not useful. 3, choose a city because you want to keep flexible. You want to be able to move on if that would be proven, if that would prove to be necessary. With the 2026 outlook, does it make sense to stage? Does it make sense to work for free? And if so, why, when, and how? Now, let me make this very, very clear. A stage is not your apprenticeship. You cannot work for free and learn the trade. That's not how it works in any sense. I had 5 years of experience when I went to Paris for the first time to stage. And I believe that I think, maybe opposite of what a lot of people think or have come to think, that you actually need a lot of experience to be a stage and to get anything out of being a stage. See, this is where the problem comes, is that if you're not experienced enough, when you take off with this idea of wanting to go work in the best restaurants in the world. Why? If you have not been taught the basics and you do not have enough experience, you are not capable of observing what's going on around you and decoding it for your own advantage. You won't be able to see what makes a restaurant great and see the difference and see where it stands out and see what it excels at if you do not have the basics. So you must have at least 5 years of experience. This is my advice. Before you even consider a stage as an opportunity. The stage cannot build your foundation. The work of a professional kitchen is that of practical work. You learn by doing. You learn by repetition. And the whole setup of the stage requires a little more of a superficial relation to the job, to the craft. It is a way for you to observe a place rather than engaging in it. So if you don't have the practical understanding, you will get much less out of it. The best way to look at a stage is to consider it as an investment similar to a long vacation. You cannot invest more than 2 to 3 months at a time, at least, for a stage in a professional kitchen. The stage can essentially only serve to broaden your horizon. Now, you shouldn't start by broadening your horizon. You should start by getting the basics. Understand cooking. Become a fairly good chef. You don't have to be the best, but before you travel anywhere to observe, you must have created the basis for your eyes to see. There's no point in traveling somewhere doing menial tasks for 6 months without having any understanding of what the hell is going on around you. The stage is not for your curriculum. The stage is to broaden your horizon. So you have the experience, and again, I repeat, 5 years of experience is a good metric for you for both reasons, for several reasons. You have amassed enough experience, and hopefully you also have sort of the foundation that can allow you financially to invest in this so-called working vacation. It is a working vacation. You go to a city and you spend a few months there expanding your horizon. Some people, they go to India and they want to hike for 6 months. That's for expanding your horizon. Some people want to go to South America and work in an NGO to expand the horizon. Other people, like me, want to work in some restaurant that for some reason seemed extremely interesting for me at the time, and I go there and I kind of hike my way through it. It's for free. Why would people pay me for me to broaden my horizon? This is the mindset that I think is important, and I think that a lot of people miss out on. As much as you would want it to be life-changing, you must not think of it to be something that can shape you as a chef. It can expand you. You must learn the basics first. That's it. 6 months is way too long. I would say that maximum 2 to 3 months is also what I would suggest anyone if they want to go hike in India. Don't overdo it, because it's not worth it. So let's assume the fact that you have the experience and you align with the fact that this is not for the CV. You want to go somewhere. Maybe you're stuck in a rut. Maybe there's, your career, you're kind of just, you don't know what to do. You don't know, maybe you're a little tired of the place you're working. You want to find new inputs. You need something refreshing. You need to be inspired. The stage is perfect. Assume the fact that you have enough experience, that you are a grown, informed chef to the point where maybe you have gotten somewhere and you want to go a little further. Maybe like myself, you've seen mid-range restaurants, you know the basics, but you dream about, the best of the best. So do your working vacation, do your stage. Expect to do 2 months. I wouldn't do more than 2 months, and I would really take well care in planning it well ahead. What you do want to do is you want to make sure that this maybe can cover maybe some part of your own formation or your own cooking career that has not been maybe evolved so much. So fish cookery might be something interesting for you. So maybe go to the Basque country, or maybe you're interested in Nordic cuisine, then go to Copenhagen, go to Stockholm, and see a city at the same time, see a culture, see a cooking culture, see a chef culture, and be a part of that for a couple of months, but only a couple of months, because not more than that. Once you've chosen your city, depending on how much experience you have, say if you are still at the beginning to mid of your career, you don't have sort of management experience and leadership experience and stuff like this, I would probably try and settle for a month. 1 month stage is enough for you to really understand every corner of the place, and it's enough for you to engage also in the team and really get to know people. If you're there for only 2 weeks, chances are it will be a little more superficial, and the networking, which is a big part of it, that you will get out of it might be a little more limited. 1 month is good. If you are a little higher level, you have more experience, you can probably get away with just doing a couple of weeks. Now, there's a caveat, because most restaurants will most probably ask for you to stay a minimum of 1 month. And I have to say, and I have to break it to you, that is with good reason. Why? See, when you come to a restaurant and you are the stage and you are being welcomed, hopefully, by a very nice sous chef that is probably in charge of the stages, then that person shows you to a section where you will be doing your work with John. Let's say John is the chef de partie at that section. The thing is, John didn't ask for you. You need to keep that in mind. When you get there, John is not the one that has been emailing with you, and John has shit to do. So my advice would be to make sure that you establish a good connection with John, and you do so by making sure that he understands that you're here to make his life easier, not to make it more complicated. You do so by being at it. Get into it. Why would you travel somewhere on your working vacation, on your stage, to goof around and not be focused? This is how you don't establish the connection, and this is how you end up not having the stage that you would dream for, because you want to get close. You want to get close to where the action is, and to do so, you need to take it step by step from the bottom up, being focused, engaged, nice, humble, polite, all the regular stuff that everybody knows we need. John needs help on the section. Be resourceful, be useful, and John will pay it back. If John will not pay that back, then you should consider what the hell you're doing and why you're there. And let me make this point one more time. No type of abuse, violence, or toxic, whatever you want to call it, environment is acceptable. Now, people are there to do their work, and you are there to support them, and in return, get to know some tricks of the trade, get to have an experience, and expand your horizon in ways that you could not otherwise have done. But they're there to do some work. So if you can help in that process, you will get much more in return. But that doesn't mean that you have to accept not being respected as a human being. You come in at the lowest level because you're stage. It has benefits and it has disadvantages. Because you're not engaged, you can detach. Which means if you don't like it, get the hell out. This is another reason why I suggest the city. Because if you take Copenhagen as an example, if you come to Copenhagen and stage, you have so many other options if you don't like where you're staging right now. And this idea that there's a blacklist, that if you are not accepting abusive behavior, then no one else will hire you. I just need to challenge that a little bit. There is no chef, no employer that you want to work for, that you want to stage for, that you want to see, meet, greet, or engage in conversation with, that never ever will expect you to keep up with abusive behavior by someone in an earlier workplace. Like it's not a stain on your curriculum that you didn't want to accept people mistreating you. It makes no sense. No one wants that. It makes no sense. Choose a kitchen with maximum 10 chefs. Whenever a kitchen has 50 staff, it is extremely prestigious, but it will be extremely boring. It's simple math. The more people in the kitchen, the further away you will be from the essence of the place. You want to see the dishes be plated. You want to see the fish be cooked. If there's 50 people, there's 49 others in front of you to get to what everybody wants in that place. Do not choose to go stage in a place that has 50 people in the kitchen. I did it. It was a different time. It was in 2006. Choose a place with 10 people, because if there's only 10 people and that place is worth your travel, that's 10 good people. That's 10 people you can learn from. And that is what makes it interesting. So in sum, I worked for 8 months for free in the world's best restaurant at the time. Was it worth it? For me, 100% it was. It was also a time where there was very, very limited ways for you to obtain some level of information. I happily did it. Today, it is different. Should you consider to do a stage? Consider it to be an extended work vacation. Do not use it for it to be what should take up the main part of your curriculum. A stage cannot form you as a chef. A stage is there to expand your horizon, whether you are a chef or a front of house or sommelier or a winemaker or a photographer or an architect or whatever it is. Do not consider it as your formation. When you have that approach to it, you can detach from it and understand what it really is about. It's about you putting yourself in a place from where you can observe things that you otherwise could not. You do need the level of experience it takes for you to get something out of those observations. Therefore, you cannot start with a stage. You can do a stage once you have the experience, a minimum of 5 years. Choose a city over countryside for you to be able to leave if it's no good. After 3 days or 1 week, you can tell this place is not for me. Politely tell the chef it's okay. Leave. Find another place. If you're in a city, you have options. If you're in the countryside, you have to do a complete revamp of your idea of these months that you have set up yourself for. Choose a kitchen with maximum 10 people working there. Large kitchens require a lot of manual labor that is not very interesting. For that same reason, do not go for prestige or clout or curriculum. Go to find a place from where you can observe and broaden your horizon into the gaps of your own skilled education and understanding of cooking and gastronomy. When you get there, be nice. Treat people as you want them to treat you. Pay attention. Work fast. Do the best you can. Show that you respect the work that they're doing. And most people, I can guarantee you, by far most people would want to teach you what they can. And you will make friends that will last a lifetime. That was it. There's so much more to unpack on this, and there's just so many different elements that I haven't covered. I'm very interested in the history of the stage that I want to go a little deeper into and try and understand and make sense of it. I also want to talk about what it has of influence, the whole stage culture, to the actual cooking and what we've come to think as being the greatest restaurants in the world and what kind of cooking that they actually do, because it's based on a lot of manual labor. And I also want to get a little more specific in how to have a good stage and, what are the red flags? What should you avoid? What should you not accept? What should you kind of, expect? And please write me an email, or even better, write in the comments below if you are interested in some expansion to this topic and in what direction I should take it. I'm happy to touch on it, and I hope that this can be useful for you in considering what this is. Again, it's up to you. If you want to do it, if you want to avoid it, it's up to you. You don't have to stage. No one has to stage. No one's gatekeeping the top of gastronomy from you. For you to be the best in the world, you don't have to stage. There's 1,000 different ways to get to the top. But this can be useful in context if you do it properly. Thank you, and may you have a good day.